Hey guys, what's going on? How are y'all today? First off, good morning to those of you that are visiting or joining us from Hawaii, and otherwise, good afternoon, possibly good evening, depending on where you're at. So I just kind of wanted to talk today a little bit about branding and building an effective brand. I gave some examples in an earlier post this week. For example, talking about French fries. So if you haven't seen that, take a look. But you can kind of see what we're generally talking about by looking at the description that I wrote just a little bit ago. So French fries didn't come from France, Kleenex is the name of all tissue paper, and Tasers have their own shocking story. See what I did there? Shocking. Branding is more than just a name and a logo. Today, let's talk about the power of effective branding. So the entire gist of it, really, this one's gonna be a pretty short one unless y'all have a ton of questions. To build an effective brand is to make your name synonymous with the product. So, as an example, Kleenex tissue paper, right? Or somebody says, "Hey, hand me a Coke." Like, that they mean this carbonated, beverage. It's not necessarily whether or not it's related to it being a Coca-Cola product or RC or Pepsi or what, like people just, it's just synonymous with this carbonated beverage. Does that make sense? So it's the same sort of general principle you want to try to establish with your brand. How do you do that? Well, of course, Kleenex and bubble wrap and Escalator, like all these other things have taken effect to a much greater thing, to where that's just what we call them, even though that's not necessarily the actual terminology or the actual name for it, because multiple companies may make something relative to, for example, Escalator, but that's just what we call it regardless. Okay. A lot of those people were the first of their kind, or the first to that product, and then they kind of beat everybody out, whether they purchased other companies, or just kind of beat them out in terms of pricing, product, quality, just the age of the company. Like there are certain things to it that make that brand bigger or better than the competitors. And then of course the competitors end up making use of that, because they're not just, even though they want to be associated, they want their company, they prefer their Escalator be called, check out, hey, let's go to the mobile stand, or what, I don't know, whatever, right? I'm just coming up with something random. The reality is they say Escalator, and they're okay with that because they're still making their money, because that's just like, they don't really care whether or not you call it what they actually make versus what was just synonymous with this product. So it's not really that big of a deal, generally speaking, for most competitors, but it is something, regardless, that forces a brand recognition. So Escalators, right? Another great example of this is the UFC. They've done a phenomenal job when it comes to pushing their own brand, right? So the UFC now is synonymous with mixed martial arts, so much so that you'll get like casual fans or people saying like, how, you can type in like, how do I train UFC, as opposed to how do I train mixed martial arts, or how do I, they are the show. There are other brands, Bellator, One Championship. There are other things that are behind them, but they're so far behind that the UFC is now what is synonymous. And how did they do that? They, of course, did build their own brand. They took risks. They put themselves out there. They did a lot of brand recognition, which is something I definitely recommend you do, whether that's paid advertising or organic reach. You want to try to get some brand recognition forward. You want to try to get your name out there. I know it's very easy to fall into the trap of, I am spending money, I am creating a product, I am helping people, I'm a super nice person, whatever it is that is going through your mind. Therefore, I should be successful, and therefore I should start making money tomorrow. The problem with that is that people don't really know you. They don't know who you are as a person. They're not joining your discussions. They're not engaging with you. You're not emailing them in a way that they want. That you may not be speaking to them in the way they want to be spoken to. Thus, the 5-week personality sales system test that you should be running. And if you don't know what that is yet, just feel free to DM us, and we can give you a few examples of that. But the idea being that you just haven't built that connection yet, right? People are still looking at other companies that they have known about. You're just kind of in the mix at this moment, right? You're a what's the best way to put this? I mean, you're a random toy in like the world's largest Toys R Us. Like there will be some way that you can, through time and effort and consistency, that you can become one of the leading toys. There's something to be said about it, to where they're gonna say, I want this, I want that, but it's going to take those 3 things: time, consistency, and effort. So that's probably the most important 3 principles when it comes to building an effective brand that actually has reach and power and stability. Is that you need to understand that this is going to take time, and this is going to take energy, and this is going to take persistence and patience. Past that, as far as the UFC goes, so that was one way they did it. Another way they did it was purchasing smaller groups. For example, things like Strike Force and things. So they bought it, and then they actually basically, not that they bankrupted it, I won't say that, but they basically bought it, and then they were like, well, we're just going to move all these fighters over to our roster, and then the promotion is just going to kind of die away. So that's something that if you have the funds to, you can do, right? Like, I would suggest going as far as even you can do that, creating your own forums, creating your own apps, just any way that you can get people to talk about you, excuse me, and not necessarily talk about the competition. So another great example that you can do this for free is to go into public groups, just request to join, etc. And then as people start to ask questions in that group, become the expert in that group, right? Like, hold your phone, make sure you have it on you, and as people post questions, you're just there. You're jumping in. Even if you don't necessarily quite know the exact answer, you can just pop into the comments and say, hey, I had a question very similar to this. Here's been my experience so far. Sometimes it's not about if you know the answer, it's about knowing what not to do, right? So you go, hey, if you're asking about brand recognition, for example, or effective branding, I'm not sure, again, this is something maybe one of you were posting, like, I'm not sure how to build that effective brand, but I will tell you that from my knowledge, from my experience, from my research, that when you, provide terrible customer service, when you yell at your customers, when you don't show up on time to your lives, when you, promise that your course or your information is going to change their business, and then you fail to do that, not just because they failed, but because you failed them, because you are actually providing something that has no tremendous value, that is something that's going to hurt your branding. So what did I do there? I didn't tell them that I know how to build an effective brand. I didn't say that I know their struggles and their pains, and I have this system in place that I've tried or that I've implemented that will help them 100%. Instead, what I did the opposite, right? I said, I'm not exactly sure what it takes to build an effective brand. I'm still working on that myself, but I will tell you, which is something that may help you or help a bunch of people, right? It's that old, most people don't know this. It's a great line to use, right? It's a political line. If you have seen political speeches, someone like that's really, really famous for this is actually Donald Trump. If you look at his speaking patterns, that's one thing he says. It can be a very mundane thing. It could be something that, like, yeah, everybody should know this. But he starts it off with, by the way, most people don't know this, folks. And it's to make you seem, it's to make it seem that you are inclusive in this little club, that you are smarter than the average bear, right? That you are somebody that does know it, so therefore you are already ahead of the crowd. You're one of the smart ones. You are the there is a reason why you are here at this rally, or there's a reason why you're watching this live. Like, so anyways, backtracking a bit. You can say, so what did I say? I didn't tell them how to build an effective brand, because maybe I'm still trying to build one myself, but I did say, hey, from money I've spent, from research I've done, from trial and error, from years and years and years of struggle, here's like my top 2 tips when it comes to building an effective brand. Here's what not to do, right? Most people don't know this, folks, but you don't want to provide terrible customer service. Most people don't know this, but you don't want to overprice yourself to the point where your price doesn't match the quality of your product. Most people don't know this, so like it's something that allows you to become an expert in the field and make you synonymous with understanding certain techniques or principles, even if you don't necessarily have the right answer, you at least know some of the wrong answers. Does that make sense? Like that's something that you can do for free that's going to help build your brand. Part of that, again, is brand recognition. Part of that is pushing your message out there, pushing your brand, your logo, your name, your picture. You're getting it out there, right? You're getting it out there into the forefront of people's minds. Again, whether you know the answer or don't know the answer. I'm not suggesting to make a random comment and start talking a bunch of crap, right? Don't give people bad information just to try to seem like you know what you're doing, because that, most people don't know this, folks, but that will actually hurt your brand, right? So what you want to do instead is to put your information out there, try to help people, try to build that way. And then depending on the groups and things like that, you can slide into people's DMs if necessary to try to say, hey, I do something like this, or hey, I would appreciate if you liked my page or followed me. Hey, it's little things that help build. And as your page numbers grow, or as your followers grow on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, whatever the case is, as that grows, things of yours get shared. As things of yours get shared, your popularity increases. As your popularity increases, your conversions increase. As your conversions increase, your income increases. As your income increases, you can then further put money towards ad spend, which then starts a whole circle over again, where you're able to push more brand recognition, get yourself out there even more, and continue to build that income to the point where you are able to be a legit leader in your field. See, that's where Darian and I are currently at. We like to be completely upfront and honest with you. We've done so many services for people that we have put our own business, as far as the course, as far as growing our followership, as far as things like that, kind of on the back burner, because the thing that we knew was consistently making us 6 figures was our marketing services. So we were able to write copy. We were able to produce funnels. We were able to do things for people that we saw was like beneficial, right? And it was making us income, and that's fantastic, right? Win-win in every way. However, we also realized that there was a funnel, right? There was a breakdown in terms of how much money we could potentially make. Now, I'm not trying to suggest that we're greedy or whatever. Like, we want to legitimately help people. We have plans for charitable donations, for actually going to places to help, but my point to that is that we realize, like, hey, our course, our offerings, our master classes, these are things that our knowledge is what we can provide, and we're able to, in the long run, help more people. And what that does by helping more people, inevitably that helps us, which then allows us to help more people, which then allows us to help us. And that's what we're currently working on, is building that brand, building that recognition. So that's why we're, in your face on Tuesdays for our Topic Tuesdays, on Fridays for our live Q&As. We're posting on Mondays. We're posting on Wednesdays for the ad reactions. We are answering your questions. We're building engagement. We're trying to enhance our presence and establish a friendship and a connection with our followers. And that is something that I think is just really beneficial for everybody. That's something that you should be trying to do as well. You don't want to just buy your followers. You don't want to just do a free giveaway, get 1,000 people on your list, and all of a sudden nobody gives a shit about you. You want to actually establish some sort of connection that allows them to connect with you as a brand, as a person, because that's just the way it is today. People want to feel special. People want to know that what they say matters, what they say counts. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times I've looked through these comments on whether it's YouTube, Instagram, whatever. And a lot of the times they're just BS comments, right? They're things that people, it's that stereotypical keyboard warrior thing, right? They would never say that to an actual fighter. They would never say that to a person's face. But online, they have the capacity to. They have the capacity to critique and get their opinion out there, and they will put their opinion out there, and it doesn't matter to them if they get 1 heart, 1 like, they get 50 likes. Obviously, they prefer the more likes, but the reality is that it just doesn't matter to them, but it matters to you, as it should. Like you want to be the person that people are talking about. And I will also say that whole adage of there's no such thing as bad press, maybe that was a possibly good adage back in the day, but today that is very much untrue, right? There's the Me Too movement. There's so many movements out there, and so many people that want to get their own belief systems and agendas and things like that out there, and so much media that allows that frustration and animosity to progress and to be exaggerated, that bad press can be bad. It really can hurt you. Now, the benefit of today's society is that not only can it be really bad and really mean and really aggressive, and you can get death threats and you can get a lot of other things, the good thing is that to some extent they're like explosions, right? It's a burst. People are pissed off, but then they move on to the next thing they're pissed off. Why? Because that's this outrage culture that is being pushed through the media, because it gets clicks, it gets likes, it gets hearts, it gets anger, it gets emotional, it gets an emotional response. I choose not to run our business like that. I could very easily come up with a million different headlines that will trigger an emotional response that'll force people on like a subconscious level to want to click, to want to engage, to want to say something. And I see that all the time. I've seen ads from other people that are digital marketers, podcasters. I mean, it doesn't really matter, but they'll say something out there that's just kind of out there. And it's like, it almost doesn't matter. Like they have their sales pitch, but maybe their very first line or their very last line is something that's really controversial, just for the sake of controversy. And so they get 150 comments, but they're all comments that are like, you suck, you're terrible, this is stupid. And then you get a couple people arguing with each other like, no, I totally think this guy's right, and da 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 da. Like, it's, to them, they're going, haha, I'm gaming the system. I'm getting a lot of comments, therefore Facebook's going to show me more, therefore blah, blah, blah. And that's technically true, and unfortunately that is how that works to some extent, but I refuse to force our company to go by that standard, because I don't want to push more negativity out into the world than there already is. I would much rather make less money and tell you the truth and be conscious of how you feel and what kind of message we're producing, than make a lot of money in 6 months or 12 months or whatever, and then go away and nobody speak to us again, which I know a lot of people do. But, so, I feel like I've gone away from the idea of the power of an effective brand. Once again, the idea being that you want to be communicative, you want to be honest, you want to have products that are worth purchasing, have price points for people that allow progression. For example, if you usually sell, I don't know, $100 t-shirts, let's just say you're like a fashion brand, that's fantastic, but do something that allows people who don't quite have $100 to spend willy-nilly to get onto your list. But don't go all the way on the free end, right? Because then you're attracting the wrong kind of customer base. You do want people that are going to buy, but maybe it's something that's a little bit better of a discount. It's something that's like a starter kit, as opposed to this full-on blinged out shirt that's 100. Maybe you have this one that's more like 50. And it doesn't have to be your entire brand. It could be like 1, 2, 3 shirts that are 50, just different variations, different sizes. but then most of your products are in the $100, $150, $200 range. It allows some people to at least get to know your brand, to purchase from you, and then see that you provide some really amazing value and really amazing products and great customer service. And then from there, they'll inevitably tell their friends. But that is something you also got to do, is get that brand recognition out there. You've got to do whatever you possibly can in an ethical fashion to get your name out there, to get your product out there, and to get people talking about it and recommending it. Because I can't remember the exact number, so I may be butchering this, but it's something along the lines of like, if somebody has a positive experience with you, they'll tell like 2 of their friends. If somebody has a negative experience with you, they'll tell up to 20 people. Basically, the negative experience will far outweigh the positive one, but you want to try to provide as many positive experiences as you possibly can in order to continue to push your brand and allow people to recognize you as the authority figure in your market or in your space or in your niche, right? But that is it for the live today. We appreciate your time. If there's anything else we can do, feel free to talk to us and DM us and just leave comments, whatever you want to do. Like, subscribe, I don't know, whatever you want. And then besides that, make sure you join the Building a Better Brand Masterclass. I'm going to put a link in the comments so that way you can go there. It's going to just help you build your brand. It has a 50-page editable workbook, and that's completely free. In order for you to actually work alongside with us and fill out information that's going to help. And it also has a little bit of information in regards to the DNC Marketing Personality Sales System 5-week test and what we're kind of about. So that is it for today. Have a great day, and I look forward to talking to you. We'll see you later.